Hello everyone, welcome to today's news chapter. Let us begin with the prelims practice question of the day. Take a look at this question. It's a very interesting question. It's about the El Nino condition. For geography, El Nino, La Nina, Indian Ocean, dipole, these kind of topics are very important. Regularly it gets asked in prelims or mains. So you need to have a complete idea about it. Two statements are provided. The first statement, it results in less rainfall in southern USA. In southern part of USA, rainfall is less. That's what the statement is telling. So when El Nino develops, more amount of rainfall happens in the coast of Peru. Peru is in the South American continent. This statement is about southern part of USA. USA is actually in North America. So you need to be very clear about it. This is how a person without good clarity will lose out. So this statement is correct because there will be less rainfall in southern USA. The second statement, it results in below average sea surface temperature in central Pacific Ocean. In the central Pacific and the eastern Pacific, the temperature will be actually higher. So which statement is correct? It results in less rainfall in southern USA is the right answer here. So A is the right option. INS Jatayu. INS Jatayu is very important for the UPSC examination 2024. The reason is very simple. In the recent times, India's relationship with Maldives has been declining, and India's relationship with China has also been declining, whereas the relationship between Maldives and China has been on the upsurge. So India has to be very careful about it because Maldives is very closely located to India and it is of high amount of strategic importance for India. So this is the reason India has developed INS Jatayu in Lakshadweep Islands so that we can have a upper hand in Indian Ocean. INS Jatayu is developed as a Indian Navy base. So Indian Navy is going to have a second base in Lakshadweep. Already we have a base in Kavarati Islands. That is INS Dweep Prakash. Dweep Prakshak. So INS Dweep Prakshak is in Kavarati already. And now we have developed INS Jatayu also at the Minicoy Island. Minicoy Island is located in the southern tip of Lakshadweep. Be very careful about the locations. So INS Indian Navy has commissioned INS Jatayu at Minicoy Island. Its second base. The first base is called Dweep Rakshak in Kavarati. So INS Jatayu is the beginning of the phased expansion plan. India has been having this plan of expanding itself in Lakshadweep and in Indian Ocean. So it is a part of it. And it is strategically located because Lakshadweep itself is strategically located. With a base in Lakshadweep, you can have a complete overview of Sri Lanka, Maldives, and Mauritius, and all Comoros, all these islands. So this is very important, and it is close to 9-degree channel. 9-degree channel is the channel which divides the Lakshadweep Islands. A 10-degree channel is the channel which divides the Andaman and Nicobar. So try to remember these things. In the island of Minicoy, there are plans for improving jetty infrastructure also. If we develop jetty infrastructure, it will help in developing tourism. It will help in improving Indian Navy's presence in Lakshadweep. So when it comes to geography, from prelims point of view, all we need to know is the maps. So take a look at this. The first map, it shows the most important points. This is the Lakshadweep Islands. The main Lakshadweep has multiple small islands. Together we call it as archipelago. Archipelago is a group of islands. It is divided by the 9-degree channel. 9-degree channel divides the main Lakshadweep with from Minicoy Islands. Minicoy Islands is also a part of Lakshadweep, but it is in the southern tip. Maldives is located in this location. So it is very close to Maldives. So we will have a very good surveillance on Maldives from here. The major points are given here: Rutland Island, Duncan Passage, Latin Andaman. So all these things are related to Andaman, Car Nicobar. So why this map is also provided here? Because Andaman and Nicobar are divided by 10-degree channel. So this point should be remembered. People get confused between 10-degree and 9-degree channel. 10-degree channel divides the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. 9-degree channel divides the Lakshadweep main islands from the Minicoy Island. So some important islands of Lakshadweep are mentioned here. Try to remember this. You might get a question related to map. Chetlat, Kiltan, Kadamat, Amini, and Kavarati, of course, Kalpeni. So these are all the most important islands in Lakshadweep. And in the southern tip, you have your Minicoy Island. It is very close to Cochin. It is very close to Calicut also. And Indian Navy has very good presence in Cochin and Calicut. Sangeet Natak Academy. From prelims point of view, for art and culture, Sangeet Natak Academy is very important. Sangeet Natak Academy is Indian National Academy for not just music. People just by looking at the term Sangeet, they will go for music, but it talks about music, dance, along with drama also. This point is extremely important. You can get a confusing statement about this. Drama is also included along with music and dance. When was it created? It was created in the year 1952. Who was the first chairman? Dr. P.V. Rajamannar was the first chairman. It was created by a resolution, not a act. It is created by a resolution by Ministry of Education, not Ministry of Culture. So each and every point mentioned here is important because generally when we talk about a body which is related to culture, it is Ministry of Culture, but here it is Ministry of Education. So try to remember it. And P.V. Rajamannar was its first chairman. P.V. Rajamannar is a very famous personality. You need to remember that also. 1952 it was started and it was started with a resolution, not a statute. So all these points are important. It is an autonomous body of the Ministry of Culture. Now it is an autonomous body under Ministry of Culture. The Academy establishes and looks after institutions and projects of national importance with related to performing arts. This point is important. So an award and fellowship. Two things are provided here. Award. The fellowship of Academy is restricted to 40 numbers. So first we are talking about fellowship. Fellowship is restricted to 40 numbers at a given time. So every year they give 40 fellowships. The price amount for this is 3 lakh. A Tamra Patra and Angavastram is provided. When we talk about the awards, here the award carries 1 lakh, a Tamra Patra and an Angavastram. So for fellowship, it is 3 lakh. For award, it is 1 lakh. And here, very important point is we do not make any distinction between nationality, race, caste, religion, creed, or sex. So nationality point is very important because they might get a you might get a statement that it is provided only for Indian citizens. So that is not correct. Music, dance, theater, traditional folk, tribal music, all performance art comes under this. So these points are very important. Mains question of the day, critically examine the scope of developing islands of India into tourism destination. So very good question. It's a 10-mark question. You can write an introduction that India's tourism industry has been on an upsurge in the recent times, and India has been trying to promote the tourism industry of the country. So when we talk about tourism, very good schemes are there. Swachh Bharat itself is promoting tourism, and the Swadesh Darshan scheme is there to promote tourism, and Amrut scheme is there to promote tourism, smart cities. So all these programs are there. But when we talk about islands, islands are also eco-sensitive zones, especially islands such as Andaman and Nicobar are biodiverse zones. So we need to take care of the eco-sensitivity. We need to adhere with the protocols of Wildlife Act. We need to adhere with the protocols of Environment Protection Act. We need to follow the coastal regulation zone regulations also. So all these things should be mentioned in your answer. About global migration. So this year, this particular problem was there. At least 8,565 people had died during migration from one part of the world to another, especially from countries such as Israel, that is from Palestine region, or the African countries. a lot of people gets migrated every year through the Mediterranean Sea. So during this migration, it is mostly a escape. So they take small canoes or small boats and they carry heavy amount of load in it and they try to cross the Mediterranean Sea. So during this time period, a lot of disasters happen. People will die due to severe weather, due to capsizing of the boats, etc. So this point is very important because it comes under international relations and disaster management also. So this year, the significance to this topic is because it is the highest number of migration death in the recent times. So, which organization quoted this? United Nations International Organization for Migration has quoted this. 2023 death toll represents a tragic increase of 20% from 2022 numbers. So, we need to know a little bit about International Organization for Migration. It is a body under the United Nations Organization. It was established in 1951 as an intergovernmental committee for European migration. When we talk about the European migration, the Second World War ended in 1945, and after the end of Second World War, millions of people in Europe were rendered homeless. They were migrants in several different countries. So there should have been some measure to make sure these people get settled in their original country. And that is the reason we started the International Organization for Migration under the United Nations Organization. So the International Organization of Migration took care of returning the people to their original country without causing any problem. But later, several other conflicts also happened, and now at the present point of time, because of Israel Palestine war and because of Russia Ukraine war, the role of International Organization for Migration has increased to a greater extent. It publishes a very important report, that is World Migration Report. Try to remember this for your prelims examination. Four important areas of work of International Organization of Migration. First one, migration and development. Second, facilitating migration. If some people have to be migrated, how to facilitate it. Regulating the migration. Migration should not happen in an illegal way, so we need to regulate it also. And in case of forced migration, what steps we should be doing. So all these things are mentioned by International Organization for Migration. Rally scattering is a topic which was present today in the Hindu. So you don't have to get into details because it is of high technicality. So you don't have to get into the details, but at least the basics you need to know. Why this is important from practical point of view? It is important because of the recent increase in semiconductor production. In a semiconductor, what happens is we will have a silicon wafer. A small silicon wafer is there, and top of it, the semiconductor chips are placed. So it follows the Rayleigh scattering method, Rayleigh scattering principle, or what we call as Rayleigh scattering criterion. So what is this criterion? The smallest feature size that can be molded on a silicon wafer. What is the smallest size of the chip that can be molded on a silicon wafer is decided by this criterion. So two important points are there which you need to know from prelims point of view. First one, the size of the feature to be projected on a wafer. The size of the chip that can be placed on the wafer is directly proportional to the wavelength of light used. Communication happens through light waves. So what is the wavelength of light? That is directly proportional to the size of the chip. So if the wavelength is higher, the size should be higher. If the wavelength is less, the size should be less. Remember this. Second one, it is inversely proportional to the aperture of the lens. Aperture is the opening of the lens. The opening shows how much light is coming in. If the opening is big, more light. If the opening is less, then small light. So the size of the aperture is indirectly proportional to the size of the chip. So if the aperture is big, then the size of the chip will be small. If the aperture is small, the size of the chip will be big. Try to remember it for prelim science and technology. This is important. So that will be all for today. All the best. Study well. Let's meet tomorrow.